So I was one of the creatives. So we were trainers. So we taught people in 1 hour sessions how to use their new Apple products that they had bought. And so I just dove in and I loved it. But I just gravitated to the people who had the biggest problems
Yeah.
and tried rearranging the schedule to make it work so that I could help them, solve this thing. And eventually it's like, I got to start a business because nobody is doing this. And
Mm.
there's a clear need for it. And that was 11 years ago.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I'm Courtney Cook, founder of Monarch COO, where I help mission-driven entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Each week, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs to explore the stories behind their successes and challenges. Whether you're just dreaming of starting a business or already building one, this podcast is here to show you that entrepreneurship is more attainable than it might seem, with insights for every stage of the journey. Let's dive in to today's conversation and see what it takes to build a business. Shawn is the founder of The Digital Organizer, a company that helps entrepreneurs and teams get their digital lives in order. With a background in systems thinking and a passion for reducing overwhelm, Shawn specializes in creating streamlined, clutter-free digital workspaces. Whether it's your Google Drive, desktop, or inbox, Shawn believes organization isn't just about being tidy. It's about unlocking clarity, productivity, and peace of mind. He's on a mission to help business owners stop wasting time hunting for files and start focusing on what matters most. Shawn, will you kick us off by sharing about your business? What do you do? Who do you serve? And how long have you been a business owner?
Yeah. So I'm Shawn Lemon, based out of the Nashville, Tennessee area, and been formed the digital organizer 11 years ago after working from the Apple Store because I saw so many people really overwhelmed trying to get organized and learn how to use new systems. And over the past 11 years, we've had so many new apps come out, from, just more cloud stuff to project managers to password managers and the whole thing. And people aren't finishing things. It's hard to set it up and it gets overwhelming and they create a big mess. And so we come in and take all that off their plate and walk them through a system to learn while doing and getting organized. And it just transforms people's lives. And we love doing it.
That's really cool. So, what inspired the idea? It sounds like you were at Apple before. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So Apple Store. So yeah, 7 years there. So I was one of the creatives. So we were trainers. So we taught people in 1 hour sessions how to use their new Apple products that they had bought. And so I just dove in and I loved it. But I just gravitated to the people who had the biggest problems
Yeah.
and tried rearranging the schedule to make it work so that I could help them, solve this thing. And eventually it's like, I got to start a business because nobody is doing this and
Mm.
there's a clear need for it. And that was 11 years ago.
11. Okay, that's incredible. What iPhone was like big then? I'm trying to think back to like what age that
So
was.
that was 2014. So it would have been like the seven.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's so interesting. So was it like I've always wondered the Apple classes, was it like older people taking the classes who are just like learning how to even navigate the phone? Or did you have CEOs? Like who was taking these classes where like this clientele was?
Yeah, it was pretty full spectrum, but definitely weighted more towards seniors because they had the time to come in and they were so excited to create. And it's like, I would love to sit down. I mean, it was only
Mhm.
$100 for a year membership to be able to
Wow.
book a 50-minute session with
Okay.
with a trainer. It was a ridiculous deal. And so yeah, they would come in and it was great. But I mean, we had CEOs. I remember all these, like, being in the Nashville area, big music producers and other
Mhm.
other people talking about, how digital was messing things up and different conversations like that. And I always loved it when some younger people came into trying to figure out how to do GarageBand or edit movies together and stuff like that. And we had a lot.
Yeah. That's really cool. So what was the process of starting this business? Did you just quit one day? Did you start dabbling in it? What did it look like from that
Well,
perspective?
so I quickly went from a sales position into the training. And then after doing the training for a little while, somebody asked me, "Hey, do you come to people's houses and help?" And it's like, well, as long as you don't tell anyone else about it, yes, because it's not what we did at the Apple Store, but it's close enough that I just wasn't quite sure. And so I started taking on more people, and I got to a point where I could go part time
Okay.
And then I was making more part time than I was full time, or well, when I was full time at the Apple Store. And after going to a Tony Robbins Business Mastery conference, I thought, just do it. And so I was on a freelancer's high, and I quit, and it slowed down immediately because it's always up and to the right, but it's not a straight line. So I was on high, but luckily I had some leftover Apple stock that kind of helped float me through at the very beginning to make sure things didn't crash and burn.
Yeah, that's awesome. Has there been was that 11 years ago or at
Mhm.
some point okay, that was
Yeah, that was
exactly that
February
point.
2014.
Okay, got it. So what's been one of the most unexpected challenges within those 11 years?
How much my mindset, it makes the difference.
Mhm.
It's me who's holding everything back. It's my limiting beliefs, and not being able to think outside of the box or even think I'm worth enough to go to the next level, and how much personal work has really contributed to building the business.
Yeah. So was there a turning point when you were like, you said it started off slow. So when was
Mhm.
it like, okay, this is definitely happening. I'm going full steam ahead. Was there some sort of turning point where you're like, yes, this is it?
Well, I think it was early on in that it was the leap to actually do it in the first place.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I had been freelancing on the side for 5 years at least. So I'd had a good enough base. And so I knew it would work. But then I figured out an offering that really could take off. Like, it had a lot of potential, and I was working with someone else and started executing on it, and it was working, and it was really exciting. And then right after that, I ended up buying an Airstream with my wife, and then we decided to work remotely, and we traveled around the country for 2 years in the Airstream.
That's so cool. Good
Yeah,
for you guys.
yeah, it was
Wow.
pretty fun.
What a leap. Okay, so did you kind of always think you would be an entrepreneur someday? Has this come as a surprise to you or anything?
No, I grew up in a household with where my mom bought a small business with my grandmother. She was kind of the business side of it. My grandmother was, and then my mom ran it, and then my dad worked full time. And so my brother and I were really involved in the business as kids, and so much involved that we asked them to sell it because we were so frustrated with it overtaking our lives and
Yeah.
weekends. And it's like all our birthdays were in December, and we'd be in conference rooms setting stuff up for big Christmas parties for corporations and stuff.
Yeah.
And we're kind of over it. But this thought process of how could we make this better? What's wrong with this situation?
Mhm.
That those are the questions that we were constantly being asked by our parents, and it just made a big difference. So I always thought that I would probably start something. I didn't know when or what I would do, but yeah.
Yeah, has it been a surprise to your family that you've taken the path as a digital organizer? There's, like the home edit and those big ones, right? Has that been a surprise that they thought you would do something different or has that been something that's just been a mind shift at all?
You know, I was always interested in photography and creative stuff and how technology worked from an early child, and even in through my internship after school and stuff, it was all around digital media and really being an Apple stuff. So I don't think it really came as a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. So what did you study? Did you go to college? What did you study? How did you do you feel like that was formative for you in getting to where you are now? Or would you say it didn't have to happen either?
Well, let's see. It certainly it certainly opened the door for this, and I don't think I'd be here without it. But I graduated high school early, and I didn't know what I wanted to do because I
Interesting.
didn't want to go to college because I'm like, what am I going to do? How do I know what career I'm going to have for the rest of my life, or I'm going to spend
Right.
all this time and money studying at 17?
Mhm.
And at the time, I was super involved in church, and these people had come in that really inspired me. And I thought, whatever they're doing, I just want to be involved with them. And so they actually had a school, and I went to it and was there for a couple of years. And then they pulled me into a video production. And then I got an internship at a post production house in Santa Barbara. And that's when I got my first Mac. My parents sold this house. They were moving and they wanted to get me a really nice Mac for this job. And, uh, and so that's where it all started. And actually, there's a good story about this. So when I moved from Santa Barbara to the Nashville area, I had a couple of dead pixels on my monitor. It's an Apple monitor, very expensive. So I was going through Las Vegas because it's actually on the way, and decided I was going to stop at the Apple store, drop it off there so that they could ship it to my new house in Franklin. So I'm sitting there at the Genius Bar, and there's this lady next to me, and she's asking the Genius some questions about iPhoto. And he starts answering, and I'm listening and realize this is not right. He's actually giving her the wrong advice. And if she does that, she's going to
No.
be end up in a bad position later on down the road because that's not actually how the app is designed to work. Well, these guys weren't even trained on how to use this. And I thought, I wonder if I could do this. And so I ended up getting a job in a mall with an Apple store when I first moved here, just to, get something and figure out what I wanted to do. And someone from the Apple store ended up referring me, and that was the start.
That's crazy. That's really cool. Like, I can't help but listen in on this conversation, and it's quite alarming.
Yeah, totally. And so I thought, I know this stuff inside and out, apparently. Yeah, I can do this. It was a really neat moment.
Yeah. Okay, how do you approach somebody? So I'm a Mac user. I have a Mac computer, have an iPhone. I like love the way it all syncs together and works. And my husband, for instance, he has a PC and was always a Samsung guy, but then, he was really ruining the family group chat because he didn't have iMessage. So eventually got him into our camp, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how do you approach somebody? Like, I have this feeling that you're probably like, you would recommend Mac products, but how do you approach somebody if you're like, okay, you're using a system that I just simply would not or would highly not recommend, but it might require them to have a complete mind shift? How do you approach that in your business?
So it's asking the questions of what do you need and guiding them down that path to realize what the strengths of a Windows system are, or the strength of Google systems or iCloud or whatever they are, and helping them to realize what's going to be best for them. And so that's from like a theoretical standpoint. And then after that, it's what's the practical side? Like, are you a person who just absolutely hates technology and learning it and doing anything new? Then it's really not a good idea for you to change platforms. But if they have to, because some people, they get this new job and they've always been a Mac person, and all of a sudden they're given a PC, an Outlook to work with, or vice versa, it can be real jarring.
Mhm.
And so in that case, our job is to immediately figure out, where did you come from? What are we on now? And how can I show you what's the same? So, whenever approaching change, whether it's in an organization or just in our personal life, if there's any sort of upset about it, the first thing that we want to do is anchor ourselves and realize what is staying the same. And then from there, introducing the small concepts. So, instead of clicking here, it's actually right up over here instead, in this area that you already know. And
Mhm.
so you're starting to anchor all of the new stuff to things that they already know. And it works really well.
Yeah, that's cool. So, switching gears a little bit, in your industry, how do you go about business development? How do you approach finding new customers, new clients that you can help? It's still service based, but since it's not like you can work with anybody remotely, I'm sure, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you're setting up a Google My Business page. How do you approach business development in your line of work?
Yeah, so I'm lucky to have had good SEO from the beginning. So I wrote a lot of articles when I first got started. And so that made my website more prominent and an authority. But I really didn't get too many leads from the blog posts. I got the most from referrals.
Cool.
Especially at the beginning, like any sort of, I think, local based business, service based business, the best thing that you can do is dive into referrals and ask for that and be involved in social media when one of your champions starts singing your praises. So there are a few key people that I could name right now who were my champions, and I would not be here without them. And so developing good relationships like that, and one of them was my father-in-law. He's got actually a huge platform, and just asking him, hey, would you share this? And so every once in a while, and that would bring in some web traffic and some leads from that aspect as well. So, I had these different champions. I went ahead and asked for help occasionally. I wish I would have asked for more help. Like it was absolutely minimal. Like, hey, if you like this blog post or whatever, like, would you consider tweeting it out or something?
Cool.
I wish I would have asked for more at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
So SEO referrals now, we're running ads, we do podcast stuff, and it's still Google. I rebranded to the Digital Organizer, which, I mean, if you search Digital Organizer, that's us. So it was a really good shift.
What were you originally?
Well, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so it was just Lemon Consulting Inc.
Okay, cool.
So I
And then you
formed as
made
an
that
S corp, but it's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So now it's just DBA once I figured that out in
smart.
2018. It took me 4 years to land on a name. And in the
Yeah.
meantime, it didn't matter. It
But
was just
and
my
it's
name.
true, and it's such an SEO friendly name. I think it's brilliant to make that shift. That's really smart. So what's one decision that you made early on that has had a major impact on your business's success?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is actually, well, the number one thing is realizing that I couldn't keep working as late as I was. So I would get to the point where I was working at a client's house until like 9 o'clock at night because we're working on this big project. Both parties wanted to finish it. It's like, if we've got the time, let's do it. And so I'm just sitting there until I finish everything up. I love wrapping up everything in one shot if possible. And so I would do that a lot. And then I would just be working quite a lot. And my wife asked me one day, well, she brought up how you spend your days is how you spend your life. Is this the life you want to live? And, thinking about, well, I'm in a pattern. Do I want this pattern to keep playing out in the exact same way? And is this what I want my life to look like? And no, it wasn't. And so I put some firm boundaries on when I was going to start and end work every day, and not work on the weekends. And I have held very strongly to that, since that happened. That was probably 2015, so only a
Mhm.
year in or so. And I've kept to that. In some cases, I think it may have slowed down the growth. In other ways, I don't know that I would have been able to sustain it because I like to go so hard.
Mhm.
And I really do need recharge time. But if I have a problem in front of me, I have a hard time stopping.
Yeah, yeah. I I will spend hours until just so I can say, "Okay, it's done." Even if
Hmm.
that means it's really late. I can sympathize with that. So what's your offerings? Like you're going in person, is that 100% of the time, a certain portion of it, or what are the different like do you have package offerings or what does that look like?
It was in person then. Now we're 100% remote.
Cool.
So we work with, well, first off, we have a resource library. So it's not really a course. It's got courses in it that you can go through, but the library, you're not expected to watch all of the videos. It's just a ridiculous amount of stuff of, oh, I want to learn about this. It all ties in with a whole vision of how files, words, project management, email, all of those things tie together. We've got one vision. And so, how does this piece fit in? How does this piece fit in? Whenever you're ready, you can tackle that aspect of your digital world. So we
Gotcha.
have that, and that's kind of this anchoring point that was born out of our work one on one with clients, which we still do and love. And so that's most of what we do is all one on one work. And so we meet with people in 90-minute sessions and 30-minute sessions. Month to month, there's no minimum, and you can just have unlimited access to us depending on the level of to get organized and work with somebody who's really experienced with this to get your digital world under control.
Awesome. So do you have a team that you're able to kind of help divvy out some of this work to?
Yep. Yep. So I've
Awesome.
got two main people for this type of thing, and then I pull in others as needed.
Cool. That's incredible. So what are some of your goals for the next 12 months?
Well, to create a marketing machine that makes sure that I never run out of leads. That's something that I neglected really early on because I love operations. I love
Mhm.
figuring out how to optimize things. I don't love doing day to day, normal, steady work to make sure that things keep coming in. And so it's like kind of highs and lows, make a ton, and then have, some lulls and everything in between. And so now it's, what does it look like to make sure that I always have a steady engine? And so I've got a lot of organic leads and then ads to supplement. If I know, oh, we're coming into a month that is typically low, I'm going to start ramping up 4 weeks ahead of time for that with ads. And then I'm going to drop it down or completely eliminate it when I know we're going into a busy season.
Yeah, smart.
So that's the first one. And then the second one is to increase retention by 40%. So that's, since we are project based, it's hard to have consistency of income. So it's always, finding the next person. But what I want to maintain relationships with these people because this isn't something that stops. Like, our lives keep evolving, the technology keeps evolving, and nothing is
Yeah.
static in the digital world. And so it's like coming up with some sort of offer that says, okay, now we're done with the project. Now it's ongoing tweaks, especially when it comes to AI. How are you going to deal with all of this? Stay organized, create new things, stay on top of it, because there's 10 new things every single day coming out. And so that's what I've been working on this year. And it's been really exciting, kind of figuring out some ways to really create more engagement and value long term, that it makes sense to stay on with us, to just keep having support and learning and tweaking.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I'm thinking through like my own life of how just the seasons change, and we have a 1.5-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter, and just adding him to the family was a change in how we're having to be organized. It's so different. Like we recently, not maybe it's probably been at least a year, got a skylight calendar where it's in our kitchen. When I'm having lunch, I love being able to have my work schedule there, our personal schedule, having a conversation with the nanny, and I can just kind of swipe through, and as we talk about like the upcoming week or what the plans are. But that was like not like I could manage it so much more, just even minus a child. So as people's seasons change, I'm sure that there's just got to be so much opportunity of reminding them like, "Hey, we're here and now your life's different." So I've never really thought of it in the sense of a retention standpoint for you, how important that probably is. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I just love these people that we work with, and it's so much fun just to see how far they come and what a train wreck it is at the beginning, and the transformation on the other side. And it's like, don't let this go, because life happens. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, even if you are the digital organizer. I can, once the pressure is on in all of the different areas of my life, things start sliding, in my organization system, or how many emails, or I've gotten behind, or I just stopped doing the routine that I know I needed. And then it starts creating, this cycle, and I have to, get things back under control. And, with my mindset and my schedule, and realize I've said yes to too many things, I've got to slow down again. So, and then, get it nice and cleared up. But that process of me getting on top of things is really easy. Whereas I talk to these clients, it takes, they're off for a day, and it'll take 2 days to get back on top of things.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's not my
crazy.
life.
Yeah, yeah, and me either. I would be in a sore spot. I have a client and we're both ops driven, obviously, but I have somebody that I work with on a client, and I'm just so into my project management tools and how I'm operating on a day to day, and sent her a Loom video of, here's how I approach my week. And she just is like, Courtney, this is like, you don't realize that like people's brains are not wired this way. And I think I take it for granted
Hmm.
because it does come so naturally, where there's like, oh, there is an opportunity here. And I don't even realize that, my clients could probably also I could probably give them more from just even a how do you set up your week kind of thing. And yeah, we don't even realize sometimes that we're sitting here on a way of thinking that needs to be shared with the world. So I'm grateful that you're willing to do that and excited because I'm sure there's people have just gotten so much out of your service.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, it's the that whole weekly thing. You're on to something. It's a big deal creating structure because so many people have a hard time with it. Either structure or just coming up with the plans. Like I can follow it, but I have a hard
Yeah.
time coming up with it. Or it's just like I can't
Yeah.
deal with rigidity. And we actually have to create themes for a day instead of actual, events that we're going to do a little bit of time here, a little bit
Yeah.
of time there. That doesn't work for me. I've got ADHD. It's one of those things where if I'm not allowed to just settle in and hyper
Mhm.
focus on something, then I'm just skimming across the surface of a bunch of things and not really feeling like I'm accomplishing much. Sometimes it does feel like I'm certainly doing things all day and a lot of them, but uh, it doesn't feel as satisfying. So having themes and allowing myself to say, I'm just going to work on this initiative until it's done. Now, I'm going to have other things that I have to do throughout the day and other responsibilities of whether they're appointments or emails that I have to answer or just something that ends up coming up. Well, fine. But once I have a free spot again, I'm working on that project. And all that has completely changed my world because I personally hate doing project management. It's too limiting. It makes me, and then it makes me have too many decisions.
Yeah.
So it's totally necessary, and I have to have it in my business. But how I approach it is a little bit different for myself.
Yep. Yeah, that's really cool. So, how do you balance the demands of running a business with your personal life? It sounds like you have a wife, you probably have family and friends that you like to spend time with. How do you balance it all?
Well, it was built in from the very beginning of I'm not working past 5 and I'm not starting before 9 and I'm not working on the weekends. And that's been a hard and fast rule. There have been exceptions when needed, of course, but overall, I stick to that. And so when I'm done, I stop. I think what's actually hard sometimes is getting back into work mode, like the momentum from that, especially from a long weekend or things, is like getting that momentum back. And then, listening to a podcast, business podcast, or reading a business book is usually the thing that gets my brain in gear and let's go.
Yeah. Is there something, Sean, that you would tell your younger self today if you could look back and say, Sean, you're so young. You have a lot to learn. Here's my advice to you.
I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. I have tried to do stuff on my own way too much and just tried to take it all on and not be a burden to anyone else. And I think trying to convince myself that I wanted to be kind of self-made or just not feel like my success is due to someone else's intervention for me. And in the end, I think it's just pride. So I wish I would have asked for more help earlier.
Yeah, that's really great advice. So the final question I ask all my guests is what's one thing you wish you knew when you started your entrepreneurial journey?
That referrals are the most important piece. Having the basic website was important and having some things that made sense that allowed people to identify who I am and feel connected because I put myself on that and really made it personal and pictures of me and everything. It allowed strangers to just say, yes, I'm going to hire this person. But in the end, I put a lot of effort into that and it did not produce near the amount of results as referrals. And so I wish I would have joined something like BNI at the beginning. If I would have known and, just put the money in and spent the time to do it, I think I would be in a totally different place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Okay, Sean. So, where can people find you? How can they get connected with you and use your services?
Yeah. So thedigitalorganizer.com is the best place to go. You can find out more about our service, all kinds of stuff. And we've got a quiz there. So you could see how organized you are from
Mm,
a very practical standpoint of how effective are your systems, not how many boxes you have to put things in. but is it actually effective for
Yeah.
you? And then where do you go from here? Where do you start? So you're going to get your score, and that'll let you know, I probably need to look at project management. That's my most important thing, or files, or I got to get email under control.
Okay, awesome. And then are you giving tips and tricks somewhere? Where can I learn more of just like little nuggets to just keep
Yeah.
track of what am I missing? Like what's the low-hanging fruit in my life?
Well, the low hanging fruit would be probably, well, for most people, it's cleaning up email. I've got an email organization guide that I can give you that'll walk you through how to clear your inbox, how to get to zero, how to stay there, and our whole philosophy around email management. And so I'll make sure Courtney puts a link in the show notes to go get that.
Yes, that would be awesome. I will be the first one using that link and I'll share it with everyone. That would be super beneficial and I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I know it'll be helpful.
Well, Shawn, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure just talking to you and getting to know your background. And you're probably the first and the only digital organizer on my podcast. And I think you're doing such a service. Like, this would be something I had for a very short time in my life, a professional organizing business. I
Yeah,
feel like I totally get this and I feel a lot of passion behind the fact that if you cannot be organized digitally, like whether it's your calendars, your schedules, how you're managing your email and all of that stuff, because it's just so, it can be so overwhelming. People need your service. It just makes you such a lighter and better and happier person when that part of your life is under control. So thank you
totally.
for what you do and your passion.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I hope you found inspiration and insights to fuel your entrepreneurial journey. If you're looking for support in building or scaling your business profitably, visit my website or send me an email to learn more about how I help mission-driven businesses become more profitable, proactive, and efficient. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps other entrepreneurs discover the show, and it would mean so much to me as well. Until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep going.